Okay. I think audio is working correctly here. Can we get some chat if we are heard?
Uh, Switching tabs over to die. Uh, Wrong. So many windows open. Oh, yep. I have it open in another tab, and you just started speaking in it, so it's a little delayed. But
That's a-okay. All right, cool. Awesome.
okay, yeah,
Okay.
people are commenting.
All right. Well, hopefully we can get a couple more people in here because I know we have some people whose decks we're going to be taking care of tonight. So let me ping one of them right now. And all right, cool. Yeah, relax YouTube. Okay, I know the audio bitrate is fine. It's cool. It's fine. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. Cool. Okay. So, couple things to take care of before we actually start editing decks.
Mhm.
Um, one, if at any point I need to step away for a sec, my throat is pretty effed up. I don't know what I did to it. I might just be getting sick. I don't know, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna cope with that through tonight. I have some tea here with honey. I'm gonna try to make it through.
Throat goat baby.
Let's go. Um, Number two, a lot of things have changed since the last Fix It Friday we've done.
Mhm.
Um, Man, Ty, it's been a couple years.
Yeah, when you commented in the group chat, like, "Oh, we're doing it for the first time in a couple of years," I was like, "Hasn't been that long." But I checked it.
It's been since I think 22.
22, yeah.
Yeah,
22 was
so
the last one.
it's been a minute. All right,
Yeah.
so let's go over what's changed. Um, so we've gotten a bunch of more sets. That's to be expected. Whatever. Um, we've had more multicolor cards come out.
Yeah.
We've had crystals and all that shenanigans come out.
Yep.
We've had limit break cards come out. And we've had a large variety of metas that have come out. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of stuff. A lot of things have changed. I think for the better, generally speaking.
I
Priming.
agree.
Priming is another one that has come out. And we've got a lot of we've got icons and dominance.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I'm very vocal about the fact that I think the game is better personally. I
yeah,
don't know. I just love this game.
I think this game gets better every year. I was talking to a coworker of mine today over lunch. One of our coworkers was quitting, and we were seeing him off after 22 years at the company.
Oh wow.
So we were just a bunch of us were chatting over lunch. Company's president did not pay for lunch. Sad. Um,
Hate the
but
rich.
but I was talking with a couple of coworkers about like what card games are good. Because he mentioned a couple that he used to play as a kid, and I was just like, yeah, those are dead. To me, at least. Um, and he was like, well, what's good these days? Because like I'm not interested in playing games, but I'm just curious. I'm like, well, nothing Bandai, because not that they're bad games, it's that they ruin them after a period of time. Um, and Magic is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It just can be overwhelming for a lot of new players, and it fluctuates in terms of a lot of different factors.
Yeah.
Um, and
Play Commander.
then yeah, I was like, there's like one or two prominent formats. Um, and then I was like, but the card games you want to like really focus on if you ever decide to get into a card game, you're gonna look at Flesh and Blood, you're gonna look at Pokemon, you're gonna look at like Union Arena, you're gonna look at um Weiss Schwartz, um, and you're gonna look at like Final Fantasy, and I mentioned a couple others in the same kind of vein as those. Um, and he seemed mildly interested, but the point is, he's like, I noticed that a couple others that I know of are not on that list of good ones, and I was like, yes, Yu-Gi-Oh is dead to me.
Mm.
Um, that game is a pit of disaster. Um, but yeah, so yeah, we joked about that, but we talked about Final Fantasy a little bit and why it's my favorite, and he got the gist of it. He doesn't really know because he doesn't play card games, but
Mhm.
he got the idea. Um, and so that's all that is said to kind of drive home the point that this is one of the best card games out there, and I will champion it until it isn't, or even when this game is officially killed off, if
It,
ever. I'll still be
it is
one of
the
its.
bestest.
If there are no fans of this card game, I'm dead.
Yeah.
So
So true, Bestie.
yeah.
So true.
Um, so Ty, if you have nothing else to add, I think we're ready to go into the first deck list.
Yep. I just finished porting the Vikings list over to Materia Hunter. That's done. Move
Cool.
that, and then Christmas, right?
Yeah. So we're gonna start off with Christmas. So this was submitted
Christmas.
by Noct in the chat. Not knocked,
Mm,
knocked. With an O. Um, and I'm blanking on who this is. But I've
Um,
got a bunch of
if
mutual
I'm
friends.
if I'm correct, his name is Nate. He was at Good Games last
Gotcha.
Thursday. He was testing this deck out, and I sat across from him, and I
Mm-hmm.
was peeking over at his games. It was just an interesting list, and I wanted to get a good idea of
Mm-hmm.
what's going on in his in his um in his thought process.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was seeing some interesting cards. I was seeing some stuff I wasn't expecting. And now that I'm looking over the deck, I'm like, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, I why can't I open this right here? I'm trying to edit the deck. Says, all right, well, you know what? I'm just gonna delete the duplicate here. Yes, I'm sure. Delete the duplicate. All right, we're gonna open this. Here we go. Okay. So,
Hmm.
Ty, first thoughts on the list. What do you think here? Because I actually really like this one. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
I think this is solid already.
yeah. There's nothing jumps out at me immediately, you know. There's a lot of there's a couple things that I'm just kind of like on. The first thing that actually jumps out at me is two drop Clive.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think it really needs to be there. I think it's only there to like really feed the Ifrit S.
Right.
But I just don't think it's worth it, honestly.
I would agree with that for sure. I also don't necessarily think Joshua needs to be at 3. And I don't think Phoenix is that critical once you've removed one or two Joshua and that baby Clive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so key things to take away there are
Uh,
that, that
because he is running Joshua with Phoenix, which is
correct.
hmm,
It's interesting, and I think there's legs on it, but I think that you'd rather prime into the Phoenix and then get something else, which realistically you have two targets, which is Innate and Furion.
yeah. Which, to be fair, very good targets.
Very, very good targets, but I don't think they're good enough. I don't think the whole setup is enough to justify um running 3 Joshua 4.
Yeah. Though honestly,
Um
I wonder. Oh, he does get. I thought Phoenix was an ETB.
no, it's attacks or primes.
Yeah.
So you can't even get Joshua
Hmm,
back.
yeah. Well, technically you can on an attack, but
Right, but there's the haste component that you need, and there's only one hasty gobbo.
yeah. Here,
So
let me open up my filters. Let's look at every Wind and Fire card that has come out. Because I'm just wondering, like, I like a lot of the lines here. You know, the idea of Phoenix reviving a Zidane or
hmm
reviving a Furion is
Oh no, it's
really cool.
nasty. It's filthy.
But I do hate the fact that you have to prime into him.
I mean, they had to keep it fair, right? It is a rare.
Yeah.
It's a pair of rare cards.
Mm.
Um so actually yeah, Kyle. This is a little bit like I mean it's wind fire, of course, but the goal of the deck is very different.
Yeah.
I think your deck at the time aimed to be more mid-range, leaning on control
Hmm.
more than aggro, as opposed to this, which is, I think, more of a pure mid-range. Um, wait for your moment to strike, as opposed to using a few things here and there to keep your opponent down.
Hmm.
Um, this one is staying slightly ahead and making your opponent not aware that they're slightly behind.
Yeah.
Um, so changes I would make out the gate. I would be adding the backup Edgar. That no, not with that. I would be adding the backup Edgar here, which will play a character of 2 or less from your hand onto the field.
Hmm.
I think that card is insanely good for any deck that can fit it in.
Yeah.
Because when do you not want to play 2 things for 3?
True.
So that by itself has really, really good value.
Hmm.
I think Norshtal and Pinello are fine, but I think Pinello needs to be at 2. That's my suggestion for the backups.
Yeah,
Um,
Vanilla 3 seems a little much. It does have two very good targets. It has Philo and Vaughn.
yeah.
Um, yeah, the backup lineup's also what I'm looking at. I think we could probably cut the Eodolus. Um,
Um,
I
where is
those
that
main targets.
one?
Let's choose
Oh,
one
that
player
yeah.
for it.
Your only
Your
targets
target
really are
is
Clive. Realistically,
yeah,
you're gonna go for Clive. But I don't
Phoenix
think that
Clive,
is
and
a
then obviously Furion and Zidane are options. But I think you'd rather go with one of those. So I'm wondering if it's probably worth it to cut the 6 drop to solidify the backup lineup a little bit. Also, he's running 18 backups, which I'm not entirely sure if that's necessary. We could probably slim it down to 17 or 16.
honestly, I would cut the Elfie
Elfie,
because
Elfie search,
there are no
Siege.
search targets, and your ping is not
Oh,
critical.
there's 2 search targets.
Oh, it does
His,
search Avalanche Operative. It's not just a forward.
yeah, he also searches himself,
That's
which
true. Yeah.
obviously
So
not
he searched
amazing, but
himself and ZG.
it is a 2 mana backup searcher to search for Siege.
No, it's a 4 mana search because you may discard 1 card to search.
Oh yeah. Mm.
So that's expensive. Um,
Siege isn't a good
and
target. It's basically just color fixing at that point.
correct. I think that you'd rather have another Princess Goblin, and you can cut the fat. Maybe have 2 Edgar. So if I were doing it like this, I would do that. Cut
Actually,
those.
so I'm looking at
Um,
this list. So I agree on cutting Elf and Siege. However, I think it's worth it to bump Norsh up to 3. Mind
I
you,
don't hate that, but
I should point out, usually when we do this to people who are listening, usually when we do this, we each make separate ones and we like kind of
yes.
disagree on some stuff. We usually end up with 2 different builds, and it's usually just like things to consider. But
Oh, another thing that happened is new since the last time we did one of these. Materia Hunter exists,
yeah, oh yeah.
and we're using that primarily now.
But I'm also wondering if it's worth it to run Stiltskin.
I don't hate Stiltskin, but I think it's at that point putting it in just to be a target. I would rather see a third of something else that is critical. Um, honestly, I would rather see a third Vaughn and a third Philo, because Vaughn has a special, and
Yeah.
Philo can be color fixing if necessary for the Furion. Um, I think also that Furion and or Zidane should be at 3.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely Zidane at 3. Zidane at 3, I think, is. Hmm. Also, I have to give him a little credit. The idea of Pinello into Philo is actually kind of inspired. I'm not gonna lie.
It's solid. I
God,
mean, it's definitely tried and true. Like we've seen it before.
yeah.
It's just nice
I'm
to see
wondering.
new players thinking of it.
Yeah. I'm wondering if there's a different target for Furion. And also search for an ice or wind. Fuck.
Oh,
For
another thing that I think is really important here, if I'm going to shift gears for a second. So, A, there's only 7 limit breaks,
mm,
which, we can fix that. But I think the Zidane limit break should be Leo, because
uh
why would you ever not want the Leo, right?
I suppose. Hmm. Here, I'm focusing on the backups right now. I'll circle back around to LB because
Sure.
also I see why the Tidus is there, but I think it's kind of a pipe dream. You
I
need to
think
have
it's pipe dream
Furion
as
in
well.
hand, you need to have Philo out, and then
Mm-hmm.
you basically need to have both of your Furions.
Yep.
The Philo Sky Pirates, Vaughn does tap for Vaughn and Northtal tap for blue. Or not Northtal, Penelo tap for blue in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Okay, so I'm gonna sort and show limit breaks that are in the correct colors here. I need to exclude multicolor. Where is the filter
Actually, you
for
know what?
that?
Maybe Leo isn't a bad idea.
Leo is always a good idea, my man.
Yeah, I think we keep Sid Highwind, obviously.
Of course, yeah,
Um,
that's a given.
yeah, I'm wondering if you do keep in the Tidus in that case. Like, maybe
I
it's
think
not as
Luna
much of a
Freya
pipe
is a good
dream.
option. Don't forget Luna
Um,
Freya.
I think if the second more EXs, maybe.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. There are not a lot of EX bursts. I mean, the other side of
Literally,
it though.
I just took out what's his face, and it's the only EX person in this deck. I realized.
Oh, Elfie, yeah.
Yeah, Elfie.
Like, keep in mind though, being able to dig 5 and grab 1 is also awesome. Um,
Yeah, but for six, technically four. Because I
so
think a lot of his value comes out of, or I think a lot of Luna Freya's value comes out of the fact that you get the effect and you draw the card.
mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, the full value is definitely off of drawing the card, but
yeah,
again, being able to dig and grab anything you want out of that pile of 5 is really, really powerful, I think.
yeah,
Especially in a deck without EX bursts. I think it can almost kind of make up for EX bursts being gone in a
mm,
somewhat, you know, loose capacity.
yeah.
Um, so I think, hmm, cut Zach down to 1. That puts you at 8 limit breaks, at least on my list here. Um, and then the other thing that I want to do here is replace the Bahamut summon.
Yeah.
So
Three
I'm gonna,
Amaterasu, no notes.
yeah, I mean
Perfect.
that's just a given right there. That one's just leave it as is.
Yeah,
Um,
that can stay right there.
yeah, actually, you know what? Here, let's do this. I'm gonna sort by fire and summon search. So I think here it would be worth it to have two of the free play Ifrit, if you have a fire forward into this turn.
Mhm.
Because like being able to Clive Ifrit to kill and then prime, or Clive prime, Ifrit. I think that's really strong. Being able to, play Edgar into Zidane or Furion, and then, hit something with the Ifrit and go. I think that's really powerful. Um, this deck is primarily fire, as you can see on the graph here. It's
Uh,
35 cards have the element of fire. So take away 2 of those, you still have 33 other than this Ifrit.
uh,
Um, that's pretty good odds, generally speaking. If we break down the forwards, you still have, let me do the math here. So 1, 3, 6, 8, and then you have 11, 13, and then this will make 16 forwards out of your 24, which is, that's 2/3 of your forwards that Ifrit can use.
mhm.
So, um, so I think that's something worth considering, is that Ifrit has a lot of good targets to ping
Mhm.
off of, let alone what's available to kill in the game right now. Um,
Yeah.
so
The- Sorry, I'm like still just staring at the backup lineup. But yeah, though I still 100% disagree, or I 100% agree. Get rid of Bahamut.
yeah, it's a very
Uh,
funny card. It's a very interesting summon, but I
yeah.
think that it's a trap for a lot of newer players. Honestly, where I have the deck right now on my screen, I think
Mhm.
that's where I'd be happy leaving it. I think I'd be
Yeah.
happy leaving it where mine is.
Mhm.
Um, because like
Yeah.
with this with this exact deck, um, and not having the player in chat to speak for
Sounds.
themselves,
Yeah.
um, I have to guess what that they want the theming to be something. Um, I want to assume they want to stick to the theme, and so I'm trying to stay
I
in the
think they're
spirit of
like,
their deck without going, well, just scrap these 47 cards and start fresh.
yeah.
Um,
The one thing that I can say is like Firewind is such a weird combination.
yeah,
Um, Not in a bad way, but the last time, like, if you want to build a meta deck, Firewind is like not the colors to look at, which is funny because a
correct.
lot of the synergies that were in Firewind when it was meta back in Marsh Ritz
Mm-hmm.
still exists. Like Norsh into print or Norsh into Stiltkin into Meath. Like those are cards that have been around for ages, and they're still good targets. They're still really good targets.
Yeah.
And then even Pinello into Philo, like that's been around since Opus 15, back when Sky Pirates became meta for exactly one set. Like, but because I'm looking at my
Yeah.
list now and I'm at 47 because I've mainly been taking things up out and then I've been fixing ratios. I'm still
Yeah.
kind of stuck on Joshua Phoenix and I'm kind of tempted to just keep it in.
Yeah, I'm keeping
Like,
it just because, well, so let's put it this way. I'm going to put the Phoenix at 1 and I'm going to keep Joshua at 2. I'm going to take out Baby Clive.
yeah, I
And
took out Baby
then
Clive.
I'm going to put
I,
in 2 Chocobo summon to save things.
uh,
Um that
hmm,
being said, that also could be a trap because there's not a lot of bounce targets in the deck that you're safely going to bounce to save. Um, it's
yeah.
mostly just to go, hey, I have a wind summon.
Uh,
Um,
well, really quick, I was thinking, like, what's the. I was like, there was another Norse Talon target. There was another really good Norse Talon target, but I can't remember what it was. Do you remember what it
Chocolat.
was? No, Chocolat's Waff. It's,
Oh crap, she is.
do you want to know? I remembered it a minute ago, and I remembered why you don't run it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It is Althea.
Oh yeah, because it's banned. Yeah, we've had some
It was,
bans since the last time we streamed.
yeah.
On one of these. So
Because I remember just being like, oh yeah, that's such a good target. I'm so smart. And then I was like, wait, fuck. I totally forgot it was banned. Let's see.
all right, so if we put in, let's take out the Chocobo summon, right? Just because that
Hmm.
one is wonky here. Um, Perhaps we do Opus 22 Alexander. Perhaps we do the Dryad. Um, Although that one's kind of weak in context.
Um,
Um,
Actually, Kyle pointed out Asura,
yeah, I know Kyle loves Asura.
and I think
We all know that.
Asura particularly in this deck works because activating backups obviously is always going to be good.
Hmm.
But particularly in this case, I tap three. I have four backups, right? Tap
Sure.
three, play Dion.
Yeah.
Tap one, untap all my backups. That immediately lets me prime. Or I tap out for Clive, Asura, untap. I can prime into Ifrit. Um, However, you also still have the targets of Zidane and Furion
Hmm.
to fetch back,
Sure.
and you have the target of Princess Goblin. because she is going to break when Dion enters.
That is true. That is true.
You're running enough wind that I think, honestly, I think Asura can work in here.
I don't hate it. I
I'm
definitely
not
don't
sure.
hate it.
I'm not sure how many. I want to say two.
I would say,
But
well, so
that,
right now I have 2 slots open in this deck, so I would put in
yeah,
2 just to fill those 2 slots.
yeah. I currently have 4 slots open, so I'm thinking about. I was planning on bumping up the backups a little bit more, but I feel like there's a backup I'm missing. That's the main thing I've been stuck on. Is I literally have every single fire wind backup on my screen right now, and I'm just staring at them because there's something I'm missing.
Well, either way, I'm gonna hit save on mine.
All right,
Um,
I'm I'm almost done. I'll be done in a second. Let me.
okay,
Come on,
so
there's
I'm gonna
something
save
I'm
that.
missing.
And then here's where we're at on if you anybody looking at stream, this is where I think the deck is at optimally.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
the goblins obviously search each other, this goblin or the princess goblin. Meath does what Meath does. Very good card in general.
Let's go
Philo color
U-Haul.
fixes. Vaughn is able to be a special. Ping for 3k or 8k if you are storming off a little bit. Edgar plays a good chunk of the backups and a good chunk, a little about a third or a quarter of the forwards. Norstalen searches your FFCC backups, which in this case is one is that is oh Meath. There we go. Yep, I was like, I know there's a good one here. And then Penello searches Philo or Vaughn, which is great. Idolus will recur you a Clive or a Phoenix. Because it has to be a fire forward. It can get you Furion, Zidane, or Joshua, but you're a little expensive for that. And then your summons, you have Asura, does what Ty and I were just talking about. Ami is always a good pick for a fire deck because you can just cancel stuff. Ifrit gets free cast off of a very comfortable chunk of the forwards. Your forwards here include Joshua that recurs an icon or a dominant to your deck, which is very useful. Zidane does Zidane things, very nasty. Tyrion, same deal. Benedicta is a secretly pretty good card. That card
Yeah.
is a sleeper, and I think people are going to discover that card is going to be more and more relevant as time goes by,
Another
especially as
thing
damage 3 control, like controlling your damage to get to 3 is always straightforward and easy enough anyway, especially in this meta.
That's another reason why I didn't really touch. I did not touch Benedicta at all in
Mm-hmm.
this list, only because something I think is very good is you're running Opus 4 Goblin.
Yeah.
Um,
So give her
O2.
haste. Yeah.
So even if you don't have the damage 3,
Mm-hmm.
giving a raw Garuda haste is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Giving a raw Bahamut haste is really good. Giving a raw Phoenix haste is really good.
Yeah. There's
Uh,
that goblin being at 1 is solid.
mhm,
Definitely worth it. And I think that's why Zach is worth having at 1 or 2 in the deck, depending on how you want to spin it. Um,
mhm.
because you can use those goblins to finish stuff off. You can use Vaughn to finish stuff off. Vincent's a good ETB to get rid of stuff anyway. Um, and then to continue with the forwards though, Dion, solid priming card. It's just a good dominant. That's another card that I think people haven't used yet much, and it's definitely going to become more prevalent and more leaned upon in the meta going
Yeah.
forward. Clive is people are price gouging that as you can see here for a reason. It's a really freaking good card.
70? One
That's
sec,
the
I gotta see if
listing.
this is
That's the
real.
listing. It's not sales. So keep that in mind. They're not selling for 71.
Chad, is this
Um,
real? Oh my god. Well, yeah, you're right. They're listed. Market price is still 30,
mhm.
but still, it's up from 20.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this
All
is
right.
this is wrong. This is just gross. I'm looking at the TCG player page here. Um, yeah, market price, most recent sale is 30. Like 35, 30. That's a lot, but not unrealistic for an L.
Yeah.
Um, so then we have the one of Phoenix that I left in there. Because it's decent. It's decent. It's not the critical cornerstone crux of the deck anymore. It
Yeah.
was a little bit more before tweaking, but it's now not quite that.
Yeah.
Um, Bahamut to be primed into, or just be a really cool special. Um, so that's awesome. Again, same as Dion, worthwhile card to have. I think it's going to become more prevalent. I am going to be getting a foil playset just in case.
Yeah.
So I can sit on that one in case I need it. Garuda again, just like Benedicta, because they're attached to the hip. Um, Probably going to become more prevalent. I think people are going to find a lot of value in this in the upcoming metas. Um, we have the Winter Cups and then the actual competitive season following. We're going to see how this card develops. It's probably going to become more relevant. So keep an eye on that one. And Ifrit, like Clive, very strong, very powerful card. In some decks, worth having even without Clive, and vice versa.
Mhm.
Um, they are Ifrit and Clive are both individually and together very strong, powerful cards. So
Yeah.
that's your
Especially
that's
in
your
a deck like this, it's a must run.
yeah, 100%. There's no reason not to. It's just so strong. Um, so that's your main deck overview. Limit breaks. I have Zach at 1, Leo at 2,
Oh yeah.
Sid Highwind at 2, Vincent at 2, and Luna Freya at 1. They all serve their individual purposes. I think the limit break is simultaneously decently flexible while also having, a lot of good purpose-built effects built in. Leo and Lunafreya dig for you. That's always good to have to get a body and dig some cards.
Mhm.
Sid Highwind also does the same thing. Zach helps you ping and kill along with these goblins and Vaughn, and you have your Bahamut, your Clive, Ifrit, um, strong stuff like that. Vincent is get rid of a dead backup and kill something, and then have you have a wall to hold up with first strike. Um, and that's pretty much it. I think
Mhm.
that's the deck. And as Kyle pointed out in chat, um, yeah, we're kind of sans some EX bursts here. But unfortunately, that's the nature of decks like this. Um,
Yeah. And that's
Firewind
also the
is
nature of priming right now. Is
yeah,
like literally none of them have EX bursts, and I think that's
and
kind of an interesting way of balancing them.
that's for the better. Absolutely agree. Like the balance on them would be completely out of whack if you had to factor EX bursts into it. Um, EX bursts can be really tricky to balance because not only, as we've said in previous videos of ours, not only are they a catch-up mechanic, but they are a resource. Um, EX bursts are something. There's a lot of times in decks where you look forward to taking damage because that means you get a burst, likely, depending on how you built your deck. It turns on damage 3 abilities, damage 5 abilities, whatever the threshold is there. Um, but key thing to remember is that bursts aren't always critically necessary. Depending on your strategy, you don't care. I mean, look at Wall 7, for example. There's only a couple EX bursts in that whole deck. You don't
Mhm.
rely on the EX bursts. You want to just do your thing, and when you take damage, you take damage, but you truck on.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, Ty,
Um,
is your version saved on Materia Hunter here?
yes, it should be.
Okay, so let me go look at yours. This is Ty's
Yeah.
version. All right, so walk me through your version here. I want to hear what you have to say about it.
All right. So for the forward lineup, I thought it was pretty solid. Like that was the thing is I was trying to think of other forwards to run. I was trying to think of like other things to really do, but I don't think there's anything terribly wrong. I bumped Zidane and Furion up to 3. I bumped Joshua down to 2, I think. I think
Hmm.
that was at 3.
Yeah, that was at three
Benedicta
before.
and Garuda at 2. That's the only one that I'm kind of iffy on. I can maybe bump one of those up to 3, maybe Garuda up to 3. But I think you want a prime, right? Like the idea of giving Garuda haste.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's reasons, but personally, unless I played this deck, I would be perfectly comfortable at 2 and 2. And also Dion and Bahamut, it's more removal, it's card draw, especially with Dion, where if you're going to be priming a lot, and also it's searchable off of Princess Goblin, which I think was the line of play.
Hmm.
However, even though I didn't edit it, I do urge to maybe try out Barnabas Odin. It gives you another threat. It gives you another thing that, like, if you just have removal, it just blows through. It's another form of removal with his on prime ability. And it doesn't break Princess Goblin. So, as someone who is a Shinryu truther, who really likes running Shinryu and stuff, especially in fire, searching it off of Princess Goblin's really cool, but breaking the Princess Goblin sucks. Like it's a drawback to Princess Goblin that like you don't normally think about, but it really sucks. I don't know how else to say it. Like so if you feel like you don't have Princess Goblin enough, if you feel that way, you might want to try out Barnabas Odin. But yeah, and then Garuda and Ifrit, like Ifrit Clive has to be a 3 of. It just has to be. I think Phoenix. Normally, I'd be more dismissive about Phoenix Joshua, but the fact that you're running the Haste Goblin is kind of that's the one thing that's kind of making me say like, okay, maybe Phoenix is good because if you're running 3 Zidane, 3 Furion, one of them's gonna end up in the yard, and if you can do that, then you know it's worth it. Um, and then moving on to the summons, 2 Asura, 3 Ami. I just talked about Asura just before. Like, you get back Meath, you get back Joshua, you get back Zidane, you get back Furion, you get back Vaughn for Vaughn special. Like, it's just a really good card. It's probably one of the best summons in Wind right now. 3 Amaterasu, I'm not touching that. No
Hmm.
one is going to touch that. I think no one should touch that. That's just
Hmm.
good. The standard goblin package, 1 4 drop, 1 Opus 4 goblin, 3 Opus 17 goblins. That's fine. I feel like in this deck you're gonna do a lot of edge damage. Like you want to push Benedicta a little bit over. That's also another reason to consider Barnabas Odin. Is Barnabas Prime minus 8k to something kill with Goblin is an option. Bahamut's 9k is a little bit more solid. But at the same time, if they do have something that's 10, if there is something that can survive, you have the Goblin. However, where I think I did well is the backups. So this was my inspiration. This is what I was looking for. It was Wattrel.
Oh yeah,
I,
the throwback.
you know what I realized? You bottom 2. Do you have got 2 Ifrits in your hand? No, you don't. Got 2 Bahamut's in your hand? No, you don't. Like Wattrel being able to cycle away the dead primes in your hand, or the dead icons in your hand, is super nice. Because like playing Garuda and Ifrit by themselves is fine, but the 2 that you really don't want to get caught with in your hand are Phoenix and Bahamut.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that they're really gonna suck if you draw them. Because Bahamut is more or less just a vanilla 10k with a French vanilla 10k with a good special, which is fine,
Hmm.
but you're not gonna play that, and you don't want to play that really. So to be able to bottom it with Waltrill, or even Princess Goblin search Dion bottom with Waltrill, it's the best target for Narstal. Narstal and Waltrill are just there's a reason that they're designed around each other. There's a reason they came out in the same set. Yeah, like just really good. But I really like his idea for the Sky Pirate backups with Vaughn, Philo, Penello.
Yeah, I agree.
Kyle pointed out in the chat that Penello doesn't tap for water, so I was wrong about that before.
Hmm.
But I I think you said to bump Van up to 3. I agree, so I bumped it up to 3. Having it for the special is nice. I don't know how often you're gonna get the storm effect off, but honestly, I don't think you really care. Like I think you just want a 2-drop backup to play off of Pinello.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so that's my thought process for the backups. Meath is fine. It's searchable off of Norsh Talon. Oh, I threw in Stiltskin. Stiltskin just to search Joshua if you need
Yep.
him to search.
Or well, it says or monster, so you can search the
Yes,
goblins if you need.
it's
That's
another way
huge.
to. As a mono fire player myself, one of my pet peeves is to is not not finding the goblins early. So the fact that you have a backup to fetch a backup that fetches the goblin, which leads into another backup, is ideal.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's
Yeah.
all. Anything that gives you value consistently, like turn after
Mhm.
turn or combo
Yeah.
after combo. Awesome, good stuff. Really
Yeah.
helpful. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I like your plan. Oh,
Yeah.
limit break. We haven't gone over your limit break.
Yeah. I kept it mostly the same. I think Tidus is still a bit of a pipe dream, but I don't think it's a. Looking at the deck more, I don't think it's a bad pipe dream. I think it is actually somewhat realistic. And then I also put an Ultima weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Vincent, but you don't have to break a backup most of the time. I'm not entirely sure about that. The Ultima weapon's the card that I'm just the most mid on. Where I was just like, I want to change something, but I don't know what I want to change. So yeah, I just threw an Ultima
Yeah,
weapon.
I'm surprised that's not a Leo.
It could be. It could be. Yeah, actually, here I'm live editing it. Yeah, take out a Zidane and Ultima Weapon to Leo. Wrong color. Leo. Wrong colors. Leo. There it is. All right. Yeah. But no, Ultima Weapon's something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
You won't turn the water side of it on, but you'll definitely turn the fire side of it on.
Yeah,
But you ready to move on to the next one?
yeah. It didn't look like you saved the deck. I can't.
I just did.
Oh, okay. Now, just to show a final version of yours. Yep, here we go.
Mhm.
So there's that. All right, cool. So are we ready to move on to the next one?
Yes. Should
Cool.
we? I'm going to reply in the thread to the specific deck with my updated version.
Well, let's do that after. Let's each reply. Let's reply with
Okay.
both at the same time.
All right.
And then so we'll do that. Next one up is Pirates and Vikings.
Mhm.
Now, preface to this one, this is almost one for one a deck that I built for myself. It's kind of just a fun rush down deck. Um, wow, it was over a year ago now. Because when Opus 21 came out and we got Ruggagene and Ferris, I decided to have some fun with this.
Mhm.
And one of our locals, Warren, great dude, love Warren. He came up with this. He basically net decked it from me, and he's actually taken a locals or two with it. He has a lot of fun with this deck. He plays it week after week, right near, right alongside his Kingsglaives and what's the third deck he plays? I'm blanking. Um, but
He's he's been borrowing mono ice lately.
oh, cool. Yeah, I haven't played against him with him on mono ice. But that being said, he's borrowed a lot of ideas from me for this deck. And honestly, there's not a lot that I would change about it. There's a couple of things I would update for the modern times, but he's already beaten me to it a little bit. So, Warrior of Light, Limit Break, Leo, and Luso. Luso is a card that I would automatically bump down to one. Because realistically, are you ever casting more than one Luso? I don't think so. So that from the get go has to become a Lunafreya Limit Break, even if that's just at one. Um, that Lunafreya is super useful here, especially if you get yourself a Cahullin, or if you get an Ash, Braun, Waka, Lena, White, no, not the White Mage, but you get the idea. There's some EX bursts here that are great to get as a bonus off that. Um, as for the main deck, though, there's really not a lot to tweak because we're sticking in theme here. Um, this is a deck very, very much centered on the theme of Vikings and pirates. Um, the Sage is an exception. That's pretty goofy. Sky Serpent General Ruggagine is again an exception. Um, but this is pretty much generally just a mono water deck that is purely meant for, it's purely meant for the fun factor. And
Mm.
again, the fact that he's taken a couple locals with it is really cool. I think this Lena definitely needs to be at 3. Um,
Yeah,
so
that was the
Waka
first
needs to
change I
be,
made.
yeah, Waka needs to go down to 1. Um, and Lena needs to be at 3. But I think that it's hard to make a lot of changes to this one because a lot of this deck has utility. Um, I think the blue worm needs to be a 2 and Sanctuary Keeper at 1, so we're gonna flip the ratios on that. Sanctuary Keeper is actually a surprisingly hilariously useful card in this deck, especially when you have a
Yeah,
super wide board.
I'm
Um,
not crazy about its cost, so I cut it because I think 3 is kind of an awkward cost for this deck.
it is, however, remember, ice exists. Um, So yeah, no, I know. So in chat, yeah, I know he has
Mm,
only one Lena. Um, but like, if we can get more of those Lenas,
yeah, I'm gonna be
then
real
like
with you. I'm
this is
just
the
playing
ideal
naked
for the
stuff.
deck. Sanctuary Keeper is great anti-ice. Um, so I think that's where that one is relevant. That's what I had in
Mm,
mind a year ago when I built this deck myself. Is that one of Sanctuary Keeper that just it pops you back up after you get iced. Because like being able to just restand rug is huge. You have
mm,
the big old blocker body, or whatever you need. Um, and the fact that everything becomes an 8K with Ferris, that's useful. So you can stand anybody up and it's fine. Um, but there's not a lot to tweak here in my opinion. I think the Sage can drop down to 1 in the forwards. I think it's
mm.
a fun little idea, but at the end of the day, I think you'd rather have an additional backup. So I would probably put what would I put here? What would I do for the backups here? We need more than 12 for sure. Um, 12 is a little greedy in my opinion. And that's me talking. I think maybe Waka could go back up to 2. He's a good EX burst.
Let's see. Sorry, the backup lineup was the first thing I started attacking, so I'm looking it over. I don't disagree with Waka. I'm just not sure if it's that important. Especially like because most water lists that I've seen have run Waka at 1. I've seen some run 2. I think Loppy at 3 is important though.
Hmm. Yeah, in chat, Kyle suggested Sarah to search Lena with,
Yeah, I
and
already put
I
that on it.
don't I don't dislike that. That's also a solid option. Though, what are Sarah's listed at right now on TCG Player? Let's add the card to the deck and see. Um, she's $3. That's actually comfortable. That's actually
Yeah.
comfortable. Um, that's not bad at all. Um, Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's not there's not much else I'd tweak here. I've played a I've played an okay amount of mono water, I say as I drop a 3D printed thing that I'm fiddling with.
Mm,
Um, but your summons, you have Kahulan, you have Aqua Tarasu Leviathan, and you have Bounce Back to Hand, Recant Recast Leviathan.
yeah.
You could theoretically drop that the anti recast Leviathan down to 1 and put Aquatarasu Leviathan at 3.
Mm.
I don't hate
Um,
that.
I have a summon suggestion.
Hmm.
I just run Sildra.
That's a banned card, my friend.
Oh no.
Yeah,
I'm
sorry
gonna
guys.
try to find a way to sneak a banned card into each one.
um
But no, I agree. I brought Free Leviathan down to 1, and I bumped Leviathan and Cahalan up to 3.
mhm.
Um, Cahalan is just insanely good,
It's such a
especially right
useful
now
card, yeah.
with Prime.
Mhm.
With priming, it's really good. And then obviously Leviathan, it's Aqua Terras. Like it just doesn't get better than that.
Yeah.
Maybe I would actually cut the 3-drop Leviathan maybe for 6-drop.
Also an option, yes.
Maybe even 2 6-drop Leviathans, because my backup lineup is at 14, but I think it's pretty good. Hmm.
Yeah, see the
How
big
many?
thing about the free Leviathan is you can put down a 1-drop Viking and then use the Leviathan to get rid of any threat. And remember, that bounces back to hand something that, say you hit a primed card with that icon is gone. Like that's just gone. That's a free RFG right there.
Yeah, actually, let me reread. Because I was going to say, let me reread that Leviathan, because I think it
Mhm.
gets around dominance too. Or rather, it targets dominance, because it has both names, correct?
Yeah.
I want to cast any copies of it. Ugh, that's such a weird wording. That's such
Basically, what
weird
it
wording.
means is you can't cast anything of that any of that card, either of those serial numbers, for the
Mhm.
next turn. Um, which I think that's huge. Especially now that dominance and icons are becoming a thing. Um,
Mhm.
it's hilariously good anti-dominant priming tech.
Yeah.
It's subtle. It takes you need to pay for one of the Vikings or whatever for it. Um, but like imagine you have 4 backups, you pitch 2 for Ash and then Leviathan. So you killed 2 things, for dirt cheap. Play a 1-drop Viking, free cast Leviathan. You tapped a backup and you drew a card and you killed a thing. That's pretty
Yeah.
good. It's not worth having as 3 in the deck, but I think it's solid. Um, and the rest of the deck is very much in theme. I
Mm.
don't think there's much else to worry about there. Um, I don't want to put in the Alchemist because I think every single card in this deck has to have a very explicit value,
Mhm.
and Alchemist being a free backup just isn't worth it.
Uh, hmm. That's the thing is, I think if you're running Ash, it's good. If you're, so I put Tidus into the build for in the LB
Oh,
because
ooh, yeah, that's right. I
your
did forget about that, didn't I?
Tidus is just always going to be online. Like you're in mono
Pretty much,
water.
yeah.
And because of Vikings, you go wide really fast.
hmm We could also, in theory, put the 4-drop EX Burst Tidus, the new one, in this deck as well.
Mhm.
Um, you can bounce and draw something, or bounce something and draw rather. Question is, what do you copy? What do you cut for it? And I think the answer there would be Sage. Um, but up for discussion.
Yeah, I cut the Sage. Like, so the big thing about Sage and Sanctuary Keeper specifically for me is you run them when you have something you want to tap. This deck, you don't really have anything you want to tap. If there is a Viking that's a tap draw card or something, maybe, but
But don't forget, that's
maybe
every player's combat phase. So you can reactivate 2 things before your opponent swings. Well, 1
true,
technically.
true,
You get to
but
attack. You get to reactivate before your opponent swings, and then again on your turn.
mhm. But still, I'm just not crazy about it.
I know. That's okay. All I'm saying is
I'm
I've
not.
seen Warren use this deck at locals, and that Sanctuary Keeper saved his ass a few times.
Mhm. Sorry, I'm messing around with the little simulator
Mm.
down below to test like opening hands. Interesting.
I'm saving the deck.
Um, you know what? I think I'm going to save mine too. I think mine is a little bit more, I don't want to say slim. I think it's a little bit more, what's a good term? Focused, I think.
Sure.
Uh, will that necessarily mean better? I'm not sure. Also trying to find a cool card to be the face of it. Where's Ferris? There she is. And
Yeah, definitely need to change.
save.
There's. All right, so then Ty, your version. Yep, that's mine. Why is mine? Here we go. Okay. Okay, you went very, very pure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant when I said focused. Is that's the big thing is usually the reason to avoid too many of the same forward is the legend rule.
Sure.
But obviously in Vikings you don't have that issue. These are all standard units. You know, they all play. It's fine. And I think this is at its core go wide strategy. I think cards like Ash and Rug kind of help with that. I cut Rug down to 1 because I think it's a good card, but I don't think it's like fantastic. Obviously, you're keeping cards like BK and Ferris at 3. You're keeping Layla at 3, like obvious. Also, a little lore for the podcast. We were almost the Layla Vikings podcast.
This is true. That was one of
Back
our
when,
many options of name
back when that
ideas.
was, and it was tempting, but I remember just being like, I don't know if that's gonna stay meta forever. And to my credit, I was
No,
right.
you're 100% right. Yeah, that was during the Vice Kings meta because we started the podcast right before Opus
Yeah.
8.
Oh, Vice Kings. Oh, Vice Kings. Anyway, so yeah, so the backup or the forward lineup I narrowed down a little bit more. It's all 3 drops except for Rug. And obviously Ash is Ash. Ash is an insane card when you're at 5 backups, which is making me wonder if it's worth it to run the free backup. But at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of value in like Astrologian. Actually, one sec, editing on the fly. Alchemist. There. Uh, Save. If you refresh, I switched out the Astrologians with the Alchemists, with 2 Alchemists. Debating swapping out the White Mage too. Anyway, but Alchemist, the thing is, hitting 5 backups in this deck is very strong because the Vikings are always drawing you cards. So even if the Vikings aren't great, the fact that you get Viking, draw a card, Viking, draw a card, like you get a good storm count, even though it doesn't matter in this deck. But you're going wide, you're thinning your deck, you're getting your good cards, and as long as you could go wide and you have the removal in Leviathan, in Ash, you would just push through. Like, I think my ideal turn in this deck is you already have like 3 Vikings out, and then you just like Titus, and then you just like win on the spot more or less. Because you're getting a bunch of card advantage, you're doing a bunch of stuff, you have 5 backups. If anything, I just wish that there were more cards that could benefit off the fact that you have 5 backups. But I think this is, yeah, I think this is a focused version of the deck. I'm if that's the thing is I fully admit I don't have the most experience with mono water. And I feel like I'm missing something, but I think this might be where the deck wants to be.
Yeah, see, my experience and so my idea with this deck comes from not so much mono water, but actually kind of mid-range aggro. My approach is that, your opponent is going to board wipe you, but the key thing is that your backups are going to be, in theory, played alongside your forwards. This is very much a kind of hopscotch deck where you play a forward and a backup, pass. Play a forward and a backup, or maybe two backups, pass. Play play backup, or play a forward, and then, oh, this one cascades, and then this one draws you a card, and you play another thing, and you combo off after a couple turns. Now you got a wide board. You got a threat. Your opponent has to respond, and they're burning resources to do it. Meanwhile, you're drawing cards off of everything, and eventually you're able to just overwhelm them. One funny as hell situation I witnessed, I think it was last week or the week before at Mike's in Wilmette. For those of you locals who are listening, I watched Warren build what looked like, I think, a 12 forward board against
Oh.
Nick M. And like they were both trying to figure out what to do, because they're both like the amount of times they look at each other and go, well, if I kill this, this happens, and like they're calculating all this stuff, all these triggers that are gonna happen, all these situations, and all the lines they're both gonna follow, and they go, nah, that's not gonna work. Crap. Okay, start again. Hold on. If I do this, then, and they spent like 40 minutes like just figuring out their board state, and Nick M eventually got there, but it took so much effort because he was running 4-color wool, but
Yeah.
but Warren had the Warrior of Light on field, which means, okay, all the forwards other than Warrior of Light Kane can't be targeted, but then Ferris also exists, so you can just force the target of Ferris, redirect it, and then it's irrelevant. Damage becomes 0. Like, it was a lock, like lockdown. They were at a complete stalemate, and it was hilarious to watch. I turned around for a second, and Nick had finally gotten there with a board wipe, but like, wow.
Yeah.
Lots of things available, and that's the idea, is that you build your forwards and backups at the same time, such that if you do end up getting board wiped, you just rebuild really quickly. But it's not, the way I play the deck, and the way I think that Warren also plays the deck, isn't quite exactly as you're describing. But that isn't to say that it's not effective. It's just not how I've played the deck. So
Yeah, I get
remains
it.
to be seen.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I definitely want to see where this deck lands. I always thought Vikings were interesting. I feel like it's not. I feel like it was there back in the Vice Kings days. I don't think the deck's there anymore, but I think it can get back there. I think like BK and Ferris are a good start. I want to see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough out there to make this deck truly critically strong.
Yeah, I
But
do
this
think it's a
deck,
very fun deck to play.
it is so much fun to play. And that's the key thing. I know that's why Warren plays it, is he's not sitting here saying it's meta. He's not, he's not pumping it up. But my God, for such a cheap deck, it's provided so much fun to him. And you know what? All the more power to him for that.
Hell yeah.
So, I think we're ready to move on to the next deck, though.
Yep.
All right, cool.
This one looks a little familiar.
Oh, hey. Hey, 13. Hey, that's my old buddy, my old best friend here. That's
I'm gonna go to the
deck.
bathroom. You can handle this one. You know.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah. Joking aside.
Right.
I think I'm not gonna edit this one that much. I'm gonna be honest with you.
You're just gonna sit there and let me do all the work?
Maybe because like I'm just kind of looking at this. It's just like, yeah, it's 13. Like it's 13.
Yup.
There's a couple things that I'm staring at that I'm like, maybe not. But okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Like
So
I think one of the first things you're gonna go for is LSA.
well, sort of. So let me open this in the editor here real quick, and there we go. Okay, so, oops, I need to add...
I have to legitimately ask you, do you see a problem with the forward lineup? Like, I'm debating Caius.
So Caius is not a card you put in this deck. That being said, this is the aggro version of 13, which is why Caius doesn't fit.
Yeah.
But I think this deck is being partially copied from the Worlds list from a couple of years ago, and I
Mhm.
think it is also being partially copied from my list. So this one was submitted by one of our locals, Shabab, I think,
Mhm.
right? Am I copying the correct? Yes. Okay, so that was Shabab's list. I'm gonna make some recommendations here based on my 13 list at where I currently am with it.
Mhm.
But my 13 list is kind of it's in limbo because I haven't played this deck in a while. I got roped into Chaos, and then following that, I got roped into the Barnabas Odin Turbo.
Mhm.
So let's go over the deck though, as a 13 enthusiast. Um, so Fang, that's the right Fang to have. That is the correct call. Vanille, of course, for the Vanille special.
Mhm.
Null, that after a lot of playtesting, I think this is the correct Null to run.
Yep.
Still, despite the new one coming out.
Mhm.
Lightning, duh.
Yeah.
Ishtola is fine at 2. If you have 3, no shame in playing it. Nothing wrong with playing it. That's
Mhm.
fine. Hope, you could go with either Hope, but running the Wind Hope, you're gonna need to make a bunch of tweaks. Um, Sarah, absolutely needed in this deck. I think she is a great addition to the 13 lineup, considering that there aren't a lot of Sarahs that you would run before. It's
Yeah.
nice to
I
have
mean, all of
another
them are
name.
nice.
Yeah, it's nice to have another Sarah or another 13 character in the deck to rely on.
Mhm.
Aranea, solid tech option. There are a lot of cards that could take this slot. Aranea is fine. If you don't have them, there's no necessity to buy them. You can fit other things here. Now, to finish off the forward lineup, though, let's talk about the Caius. Um,
Yeah. The
this
Caius team.
Caius,
So, in my little experience with 13, I think big forwards are clunky in the deck. I think RNA wins the slot because she's a removal, and she's late game. She I don't want to call her a board wipe, but late game she's killing two things. Like that's
mhm.
a lot of value. Caius, on the other hand, like 5 seems to be a lot to pay in this deck.
Well, not only is it a lot to pay for any one character, because let's be real, you're not really paying for anything but characters on an average in this deck. Um, Caius, he hits the field, he searches a summon, then yeah, you free cast that summon. Um, Specifically the Bahamut. Um,
Mhm.
but there aren't enough Bahamuts to warrant caring. Not
Yeah.
to mention the fact that it's a slow card.
Mhm.
13, its strength back when it was meta, its strength came from the ability to rebuild your board really fast, whether it's the first time or the 10th time, and swing in hitting hard. You're dealing 3, 4, 5 damage a turn. That is massive. Caius doesn't really get you there. Caius isn't an explosive card in the sense that he doesn't combo with anything that is mission critical. He doesn't hit the ground and have haste. He's got brave, which is nice. Um, but you're never really sitting there in his deck and going, "Man, I wish I could free cast a Bahamut right now." Um, there are situations where that you're doing that, but those are situations where your back is against the wall and you need to push through for a kill. Um, so the first thing I'm going to do to this deck is just rip that Caius out, with prejudice.
Yeah, I agree.
Following that up, um, there's an additional Bahamut in here that is not the starter Bahamut. I would put that at 1. Um, because it is reduced in cost on your turn, but only by 2, making it an odd cost card.
Mhm.
There are some narrow situations in which you like that and you don't mind playing that card for its reduced cost. For its full price cost, you are never casting that card.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I've seen you cast that at full cost once, and it was to win a game.
I've never cast this Bahamut full price. I've never even. I don't
Really?
actually think I've even used this Bahamut in a deck.
Okay,
Um,
maybe
the
maybe
starter
I
one, yes. Starter
no, that's
one.
what I mean.
Oh
Oh,
no, I'm
sorry.
talking about the other Bahamut. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
that the 13 starter Bahamut is the key Bahamut in this deck. That's the one you always want at 3 because there's rarely a situation where he's not online. Um, that one is absolutely a must keep. I'm talking about the Opus 21 Hero Bahamut.
Yeah.
That's the one that I'm criticizing. Not so much criticizing here, but laying a critical eye on, um, because it is it's just another one of those cards that you don't ever feel great casting, and if you're casting this, you're probably already losing.
Mm.
So yeah, um, yeah, I just don't think this one's worth it. But having it as a one of for the Matt Rice special is it's fun. And it's fine. It's functional. I may end up cutting it later in these edits, depending on how we need to fit things in.
Yeah.
Um, the Rama here, tech option. That is a choice to make. I'm not going to sit and say it's a bad one necessarily. Um, it's flexible, which is nice. However, I prefer running the Belias that gives you a card and haste and a keyword here, or another keyword. So
First
let me
strike.
pull that up. There are 3 Belias that you can choose from, but the one we're focusing on here in 13, my preference at least, is this one, Belias the Gigas from Opus 2. Choose a forward, it gains 1k, haste, and first strike, and you draw a card, and it's an EX burst. Um, this isn't part of the meta version of the deck. This was not something that Will Coghill ran at Worlds a couple years ago,
Mm.
but especially in our local scene, this card did me some work. It did work for me. It was great. I had a good time with it. I had a good time with this playing at the Winter Cup last year. This card helped me a good bit.
Mhm.
Getting that first strike on demand plus the 1k can save you a turn, 100%,
Yeah.
and it draws a card to replace itself. Haste, you can give anything in your deck haste and replace the card in your hand if it doesn't already have haste. Vanille, Hope, Sarah, Fang. Those are cards that you don't mind giving haste at any point, especially if you're trying to push for game, get that extra burn off lightning, whatever. Um, you definitely want Ami in the deck. So I'm going to cut Brynhilda here because
Mm.
Amaterasu
Yeah.
uh, is critical to surviving board wipes. Absolutely need to have a minimum of 2 of that card in your deck to survive a board wipe. Because look at the fact that it cancels every auto in the game. Um, yeah, you can get around Shantotto in the back row. You can get around forwards. Um, there are games where canceling a board wipe has caused my opponent to scoop. Um, like they'll sit there and go, "Well, if I can't board wipe you, I can't win. So forget it."
Well, one of those might have been me.
it I don't remember honestly. I do that to so many people. Like I don't
I'm
I'm not saying
yeah.
I cause people to rage or anything. I'm just saying like I've Ami'd at least like half our locals while playing 13.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure we had a game where I remember I was testing against you. I'm like Shintoto, and he went Ami. I'm like game 2.
Yeah, and like that saves you. That
Yeah,
like it's great. So that's an absolute must include. If you find you need a third, which I did, then you can throw a third in there. But this is where I leave the summons right now. But just keep in mind that instead of this Ramu, Belias the Gigas is an option. I also like to have in my deck, I have the 5-drop Odin that becomes cheaper at damage 5. It's a
yeah.
great back foot card.
An EX.
It's a great EX burst that kills a 5-drop or less, which is a lot of threats in this game. Especially like right now, hey, Clive is less than 5. So he swings in, you kill him, your opponent, yeah, they're gonna draw 2 cards, but you killed the thing they were gonna use to prime in main phase 2. Now they ain't gonna prime it
Yeah.
anymore. Um, things to
Yeah,
consider.
most importantly, you're not worrying about the prime anymore.
Exactly. So again, options to consider. Um, moving on to the back row, we'll come back to potential of monsters in a second because there's a couple options there, but that's not the crux of the deck.
Yeah.
Um, so I see that this deck is again, I see from the backups here that this is very much copied from the Worlds list, which I have recommended to people before.
Mm.
Um, now what I don't recommend is this Kaituna. Kaituna is a fun card. So if that's meant to be in here for just the fun of using it, then by all means, don't have to listen to my advice on that one. That's fine. What I would put in here instead is a card that was also run in high level versions of this deck, and that is Larketius. This card is
Ooh, yeah.
your end all be all removal in the deck. Um, it's super useful because it's a one drop RFG something. There's not a lot of backup hate in this game, so there's not a decent chance that he's going to be ripped away from you. And then your opponent brings a thing back.
Mhm.
Something else worth running is my boy Edgar. Hey, look, we're bringing him back. I mentioned him earlier in the stream. I said I was going to talk about him. He's worth having. He plays he plays 3, 6, 9, 12 your forwards, and he plays 4 of your backups. So that's really strong. I think that's really, really useful there.
Wait,
Um,
really quick. I have my build finished. Uh,
okay.
I at least I think I do. I'm legit gonna run to the bathroom. I'm gonna
Yeah,
let you take over for a minute.
that
I
is
mean, this is
a-okay.
yeah.
All right, so to continue on, so Lumina is a critical card in the deck. Very nice to have at all times for 13. Just search a 13 forward. Good stuff. Reeve, same idea. Look at, not show your opponent. That's strong. You get to look at 3 cards, grab one, bottom 2 of them. Great way to cycle through your deck. Selfie, kind of useful. I never found much use for that card in 13. The only exception being get a Vanille back for the special. Um, but especially with the amount of graveyard hate in the game right now, it's not as necessary to have the selfie. I'd recommend putting it at 1. Same with Emperor Gestalt. While it's nice to have this card, it's not mission critical. Um, I didn't find a lot of success with it, but obviously a much better player than me at Worlds thought that it was useful. So worth keeping an eye on it, worth having at 1 in the deck, I think, but not so important that you need to sit down and be hoping you cast it every game. Um, so that's the backup line there. Um, not quite the same as mine. Mine's a little slimmer, but that's because I include monsters and I have a few other forwards as well. So let's move to the monsters because these are recent developments from the last set. I'm gonna throw in 3 of this behemoth. This behemoth is really fun. It's really interesting. And basically, what it does is any damage dealt by anything other than abilities. So basically, Lightning's burn won't deal 2 damage, but every attack that you deal, go on with these characters will deal 2, which is really useful for pushing game. Um, it makes it more consistent to do stuff. Um, if you want to drop that down a little bit, you can also throw in another one of my favorites. Um, not Sanctuary Keeper. What is it? Spectral Keeper. There we go. Spectral Keeper. This lets you dull 1, potentially 2 opponents forwards, depending on what point of the game you're at. Super useful. I like to have this one as 1 in my deck. Um, but another thing you might consider is some removal in the Deadly Nightshade, which is also not too bad of a Megadeth song. Um, and this one is interesting because you might be able to get some good removal off of it depending on what you're facing down. Um, it does create a stack. Um, it's kind of risky to use it and not helpful at all in some matchups, but worth considering. So just keep this card in the back of your mind. It's a rare, millions of them are out there, super accessible card. Um, Now, additional forwards that I run in my deck that you might consider here. There's only two of them. So I have Multicolor Zidane, and this is at 2 in my deck, but for the sake of argument, we'll put it at 1 right now. I also have Godot, because this card lets you combo and establish a threat very quickly. So the way I like to play the deck, my ideal opening play is pitch 2 of whatever to play Edgar, who plays Godot, who plays Fang. Then, next turn, you go off. Godot can also play Zidane. Um, I had him play at last year's Materia Cup, or not Materia Cup, Winter Cup, where I went Edgar into Godot into Zidane. I ripped out a lightning from the guy's hand in a mirror match. I swing, and I ripped another card out of his hand that was a critical card for 13. By the time the game ended, I had taken 2 or 3 damage. I'd won the game against him, so I dealt him all 7, and I'd ripped over 9 cards out of his hand from Zidane's. Just based off of, replaying Zidane, swinging with Zidane. He killed a couple of them, so that I had to replay them and whatnot. But this card did work, and it's a really, really good way to get underneath big threats. Of course, it is vulnerable to Ice and Amaterasu, but those are the risks you have to take in aggro decks like this. There are some ways to spin 13 if you decide you don't want the aggro route. You can spin 13 to be mid-range, but your whole build is going to be so different, which is fine, but there's a whole other learning curve there if that's the direction you want to go with it. So these are things to keep in mind with 13, but it's a pretty straightforward deck that has quote unquote been solved, in that we think we've found the ceiling of what makes the best 13 deck, and there's only so much we can add to make it better, which in this case is the Behemoth, is the Sarah. I actually forego the Aranea now. I don't run the Aranea currently. It is still in my maybe board in my deck box, but I don't rely on this card. I want this card, I want this slot to be a Sarah, a Hope, all these other things that have other effects. Now, granted, killing a 3-drop is super useful. I like doing that all the time. But right now, there's a lot of 4-drops that are powerful, a lot of 5-drops that are powerful that Aranea just doesn't deal with if she's a burst. She needs to be at damage 5 to ETB and kill that thing. But in 13, if you're at damage 5, there's a slim chance you're getting through. You got to hold out and hope things go in your favor. But Aranea is a please save me card right now, not so much a win hard card. So things to consider. If I had to fit another Zidane in here, it's tough. I would probably cut a Spectral Keeper for a Zidane if you want to do that. If you want to keep Godot, if you don't want to keep Godot, that's your call as the player, right? But right now, I ratios are hard in 13. Ratios are genuinely hard. Also keep in mind, my 13 build has 2 of this Vanille and 3 of this one. I have 2 Ishtola, which makes things easier to balance out for the Zidane and the Godot. My Godot is at 2, my Zidane is at 2, my Ishtola is at 2, and my Sarah is at 2, but I'd like Sarah to be at 3. So I might still tweak mine. I'm not quite sure where my deck is at yet. But, that's all other discussion points, because there's a lot of different ways you can spin the ratios. but the core is still relatively the same. You have the Fang, Vanille, Noel, Lightning, Ishtola, Vanille, Hope, and Sarah.
Mm.
The rest is conjecture and commentary. So that's where I'm at with that. Um, and at the end of the day, the summons are really subjective. You really want that core Bahamut, that core Amaterasu. The rest is whatever you feel like making it. Um, there needs to be one removal summon for sure, and you got the Bahamut, so that's fine. You need to have that auto cancel summon. That's Ami, so you're fine. Um, and yeah, the reprint set is also really going to help. That is a good point, Shabab. Um, it's it's a totally fine build and deck. 13 is tried and true, and it's accessible. Zidane right now is a little pricey, but ask around our community, people have them. They're around. Um, the only cards in this deck besides that, Sarah, a little bit pricey, but not that bad. Aranea, not that bad. But again, I said that's an optional card. Um, the Ishtola, presumably you have them, but if you don't, people have them or I can lend them to you. The backups are all dirt cheap. Your whole backup line is less than $5. Your monsters line is, optional, and if you choose to use it, then less than $1. Summons are cheap. Amis, of course, they're always going to be a relevant, useful card. So that card's gonna, right now $5, but shrug that off.
Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, honestly, the big thing was that I ripped out the Caius and added the Larkishus instead of the Kaituna. The rest of the build is pretty fine.
Mm.
So, Edgar is really huge, I think, like I said, because he doesn't color restrict. He just says a 2-drop character or less. So you can play so many things off that in this deck. Monster, forward, backup, whatever you want to do. It's cool. And 13 is great like that. So those are my suggestions. I'm gonna hit the save button here, and then Ty. Limit breaks. Limit breaks. I didn't talk about limit breaks. Haha, the deck is missing limit breaks. I just
Mm.
realized that. I was gonna hand it off to Ty, and I was like, wait a second here. Um, limit breaks. So limit break. Definitely want to add some of that. Edge, Mott to Cloud, a Lightning, a Vincent, and an Arden. Two Arden. So this is where my limit breaks are at. Because there's not a lot of cheap options here, and colors are kind of narrow and tough to work with. So Mott, because you can use the Vanille. That is it. So that one is like a push for victory thing. It's an option, but it, play with it, see if you like it or don't, whatever. Cloud, that's just self-explanatory. Anything that can include lightning should include Cloud. Really good
Mm.
limit break card, just hands down. Lightning, if you really want a lightning summon back from grave and you don't have the light lightning anymore, this can do some work. It's not great, but it's a 13 character that works with a 13 character synergy. So it's there. Bahamut, if you have none of these lightnings, then okay, the Bahamut, you can get to 3. That's fine. And then Vincent, because Vincent has some fun tech. So you can get rid of a dead backup, right? Cool. Get rid of a dead backup, kill a thing. You have a first strike forward. All right, whatever. But you Vincent, say your opponent already has something that say you remove someone with Larkishus. They play another one. Vincent, kill Larkishus. Yeah, that's fun. That's a super cheeky tech. Arden, it's a good defense card. If you really desperately need to be on the back foot, another one of those survivability cards that, yeah, they'll kill it. It comes back. you've got a big 10k wall. That's kind of nice to have. It's not critical. It's not something that you would opt to do in most situations, but it works. It's there. It exists. And then there's edge, which, you know, turns all your lightning forwards into 7k bombs. So now suddenly they all have that effect that deadly nightshade has. Um, so that's worth keeping in mind. Um, it's fun, it's cool, it's useful, and why does this look different than mine? Oh, that's why. Okay, because I never mind. All right, so that's cool. But this is your limit break in this deck, I think. I don't think there's a lot of other ways to spin it other than ratios. So you know, ratio yourself out there. Now let's check back on Ty's build, which is over here. And what
Yeah,
do you got? Not much
I'm
different
not.
overall.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was listening to you a lot of the time and just been like, yeah, I should put that in. uh, yeah, like that's the thing. Here, make sure you're on the most recent version. I might have updated one thing since I last saved, but
Yeah, I just clicked on it in the deck profile here in the list.
yeah,
So
but yeah,
yeah,
no, my word of the day is focused.
yep,
Um, it's like it's 13. I obviously I wanted to like let you kind of take control of this one. This is like if we got a mono ice list,
yeah,
where it's just like, I gotta take over. But in my experience in the deck, I also cut the Caius. I think Caius is clunky, costs 5, not great. Aranea is, I think, the only high cost card that you should be running. She's an EX. She kills 2 things on enter. I talked about that at the top.
no, she only
Um,
kills who? Wait, who kills two things on her?
Aranea,
No, she kills one thing on her.
if you're at damage 5.
That doesn't count for EX bursts.
Yeah, I know. On enter.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Duh.
No, you're good.
I'm
I
like,
also
idiot. You didn't read the card. And it's like, no, I read the card. Eric's the idiot.
uh,
It's okay. We're moving on.
I love you. Anyway, so I cut the Sarah down to 1. Um, at least in my experience in this deck, 4 for hope feels kind of bad, but at the end of the day, you get lightning. 4 for hope feels bad, and then you get a vanilla. Like it's hope. Hope is fine because he essentially costs 2. Sarah doesn't. Sarah will always cost 4. And I think the -2 potential -5 is good, but I don't think it's game winning. I think it I think it helps, but it's not extreme. I think you're not so much worried about lightning not being able to swing over things. You're more worried about lightning dying. So So that's why I just put Sarah at 1. I just don't think she's very important. I think she's handy, but I can't see her. Like if you're paying 4 in this deck, it sucks compared to Vanille or Y'shtola, right? Because like Y'shtola and Vanilla's a board wipe. Y'shtola potentially wins you the game on the spot. And then moving over to I also threw in Zidane. Zidane's just insane. I wouldn't run Zidane without Edgar, but as you said, Edgar's a really good card, plays a good portion of this deck. He's Edgar. For summons, 2 Belias, 1 Rama, 3 Alme, 3 Bahamut. 3 Alma, 3 Bahamut I think is self-explanatory. They're good. Bahamut's amazing in this deck. 2 mana, deal 10 to something, like insane. Rama, I was debating whether or not to keep in. I think it's a really handy card. It can save you. You dull something, you deal 5k to something, you potentially kill something. But I think the give haste is really important. But give haste being important, I put into Belias. It's an EX burst, first strike haste. Like it's good. At its very worst, it's drawing you a card on EX. So worth it. And then I went with 2 Spectral Keeper. In my short time playing the deck, I liked Spectral Keeper. I thought he was a handy card. Um, I would I wanted to because I always feel like there were times where I didn't see him at the right time, or I wanted to see him just enough. He's not like a super necessary card, but he's very annoying. I think you'd agree with me there.
Oh yeah, no, that card's great at being annoying.
Yeah, a very very annoying card. And basically stops all offense against you when it's out because it's just like, yeah, I can swing with this thing, but I need to keep it up because I know Spectral Keeper's there. Um, One Lark, he's Lark, insane card. One Emperor Gestal adds back your lightning if need be. Adds back a Vanille for Vanille special. However, I don't think you need to run that many backups in this deck, which is why I only keep him at 1. 3 Lumina, she's your searcher. 2 Edgar, he's Edgar. How do you feel about LSA? I have to ask.
Trash in this deck.
Trash in this deck?
Yeah, so there's very rare situations where you'd ever need to use it.
Uh-huh.
So you cut Sarah down to 1. Using her special is a reason you would use Alisei. And same thing with Vanille, of course.
Yeah.
That's literally it. That's the
Mhm.
only reason you do that. But also to backtrack a little bit onto Sarah, you
Yeah.
really haven't played Modern 13 against it a lot. That Sarah
Mhm.
wins games. That Sarah does work because
Really?
you use Sarah and then you just Vanille special and their board's gone. You use Sarah and then you use anything that deals damage and then the thing dies, whatever you pinged. um
Mhm.
and like it just makes everything they do vulnerable. And it makes your opponent kind of afraid of even your weenies, so
Mhm.
it's super useful. And that's why I cut my RNA for it in my version,
Wow.
like in my
Mhm.
deck I should say. um
Damn.
yeah, not the version I recommend necessarily, but like ask people at Perfect Circle, or not Perfect Circle, second level,
Mhm.
how that Sarah does work, and they will tell you what I've done.
Mhm.
It's pretty rude. Alvaro actually also figured it out when he was playing my 13 deck.
Nice.
He was like looking at stuff and he's just like, "Oh wait, I can do this into this." I'm like, "Yep, yep." And he's like, "Does that wipe your board?" I'm like, "Yep." And I'm like, "Cool."
Mhm.
And he's like, "I swing for game," and I'm like, "Yes, you swing for game."
Damn. Mhm.
Sarah does work. She is not the linchpin of the deck like Lightning is, but
Mhm.
like she's cool. She's neat.
Right. And
Alize, I think if you're gonna run Alize, you are more often than not better off running the other Reeve, which is a 3-drop Opus 16 Reeve that replays a 2-drop forward from Grave.
mhm.
Um, and that can bring back
Yeah.
Lightning, Null, Zidane, or Fang. In my deck that I run, you can get the Godot back. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
and
Actually, one
like
second. I misread the Reeve. I thought that was the other Reeve.
Nope. This Reeve is great. Don't get me wrong. That is the meta version of Reeve to run in the deck if you're running 13.
Mm.
Um, but it is it's not inferior, but I'm saying if you're gonna run Alize, you might as well run the other Reeve instead, and then cut this Reeve and then be at a smaller amount of backups. You can fit more forwards or more monsters in the deck.
Mhm.
Which is why I only run 1 Spectral Keeper, and I run 2 Behemoth now.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that behemoth also is pretty scary.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. The Behemoth I was wondering about only because one sec. Ooh. I think it's a very good card. I think it's a very scary card. Also, did you put a Stinian in your deck? I didn't check.
so that's another worlds level card that
Mhm.
I did not put in my deck. Um, it is worth having potentially. It's worth considering. Um, I just don't like telegraphing my plans to my opponent without. Let's put it this way: you want to telegraph the things that either scare them or throw them off.
Yeah.
Estinian is a pretty clear. There's like you're gonna do something here, but they also have a lot of windows to respond to it. So
Yeah.
they can cancel the enter, they can cancel the effect on enter. Um, which potentially kills depending on how you cancel it. They can
Mm.
they can dull and freeze it. They can do a lot of that stuff. Spectral Keeper, the behemoth, they telegraph things, but the opponent never knows when you're going to use it.
Yeah.
Estinian is much more explicitly direct of, well, I'm
Mm.
going to attack. It is very much yeah, Kyle, it's an oh shit card. Um, but it's the double-bladed lightsaber where the only reason that the Sith use it is because it intimidates the Jedi. But when the Jedi look at that weapon, they're like, "Oh, this is ultra predictable." Because if I know where one end of the blade is, I know where the other end of the blade is. So I know everything about this weapon and the tactics my opponent's going to use. Um, it's that's what they explain is the reason for Obi-Wan beating Darth Maul in Episode 1. Like Qui-Gon just got tired. Obi-Wan was able to read Darth Maul's attacks and then chop him in half. So
Mm.
like the Estinian is the double-bladed lightsaber. Um, whereas other stuff is more tactical, I think.
Mm.
Um, but however, Estinian is still a really good card of this deck because swinging for 2 is strong. Estinian with Behemoth is really even stronger because you're dealing 4 damage, which is crazy.
Mm.
So things to keep in mind.
All right. In that case, I'm probably gonna cut the LSA. Um, I don't know if I'd cut it for Reeve. I had like another card in mind, but now I can't think of it.
Well, I think
Um,
even if you remove the Alisei and you drop in 2 more forwards, like 2 more Sarahs, this deck
mm,
will be in a good position still.
yeah, yeah, because I remember, I think the build that I was running for a while only ran like 10 backups. I don't remember running a lot of backups at all.
Between 9 and 12 is the ideal for 13.
Yeah,
Ironically, having
in that case, I
13
would actually
backups
just
is
cut
too
both of
many.
them.
My version runs 11.
Mhm.
I like 11 backups in mine. I find that to be the sweet spot because I'm not really using backups.
Mm.
This deck, the backups are the backup option. They're not the critical primary focus. Um,
Yeah.
like if you're running a lot of backups, you're leaning more towards mid range, and then you do stuff with that. It shifts the whole focus of the deck, and so
Yeah.
staying focused means something different there.
Mhm. Sorry, one sec. Boink. All right. So, let me save. All right, I refreshed it, or
Okay,
I
here we go.
edited it rather.
There we go. Yeah, this looks much scarier.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think Estinian's a good card, but it's not necessary. Having it at 1 is fine. If
Hmm.
it's enough to scare, or if it's enough to ban out an Ami, I think that's worth. Or a Leviathan.
Yep.
But otherwise, yeah, I feel you. Solid searches Ami or Bahamut. Reeve is, well, Reeve. Good EX, good draw, helps run through the deck. Um, and then for limit break, 2 Zach, 2 Cloud, 2 Vincent, 2 Nyx. I'll be a little honest, I wasn't 100% sure what to do with it. Like,
The
Nyx just
Nyx
feels
is
like
very
it
much
can
a good.
stay.
The Nyx is a very good tech choice.
Because from my experience with this deck, having board presence was very important. And
Hmm.
having another forward that's just there was
Yep.
really nice.
Hmm.
Vinny, Vinny's just there to. You point out the Lark utility. He's Vinny. He's just good. You want removal in this deck. You want to get rid of things. Vinny helps you do that. Cloud is Cloud. Zach is
Hmm.
Zach.
Yep.
Zach helps just even out fights. I don't think you really want to run Arden because it costs so much. But I think Zach being able to deal 3k to complement Yashtola's 4 is like perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you can Ishtola, you can, finish something off from a Vanille special. You can put the Sarah out and then Zac stuff. So you can do Sarah, Fang, or sorry, Fang, Sarah, and anything else.
Mm.
Zac, and then cool, they lost a bunch of stuff. Or they lost one important thing. Whatever. Um, ultimately the point is like the limit break in this deck is pretty flexible, but it's pretty good. I still think the one of Mott is really helpful. I think you're only gonna Vincent once. Um, so I think the Mott is really important for like those turns where you think you're gonna go for lethal, but they might hit a burst. So you do that. Especially against ice decks, it's really helpful because if you swing and they hit a like an EX burst that dulls and freezes, you're not losing another attacker. You're just losing one thing that was standing up, and now you still have defenders to work with. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
but that is again a tech option. It is
Mm,
not like mission critical. It's just
yeah,
a helpful thing.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, that's my list. Though I do have a question.
Yeah,
How often do you Sarah special? I
not
assume not a lot.
not a lot. Having it available is nice. But really what you want is having the option to always have her on the field
Yeah,
because like if you get Saz and Lumina in back row, um like yeah, you're not pumping the Sarah count, but you've already searched stuff out that help you get there. Um
yeah.
so you like the fact that there's so much two cost stuff in this deck is really useful.
Mhm.
So you can Fang Null or Fang Lightning and then Sarah. You can put so much down to put Sarah at 3 so quick and then present a threat to your opponent that I think Sarah is worth having big. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah. Yeah. I mean Warren says in chat like Sarah Mercs Nyx makes him small, which is very true. Um, And yeah,
So
sorry,
I was also
Shabab.
thinking
Caius just ain't it.
a fun thing, because I'm obviously whenever I look at these decks, I think of like, what would I play against this? I know I'm going up against this. What would I play? And usually when it came to 13, I think I would play Ice Priming, but Mono Earth would be my other option. And I realized that Sarah just turns off Leo.
Yeah, she literally kills Leo immediately.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
use a special, and then
yeah,
he just
any
insta
Leo,
dies.
honestly. She also, oh yeah, Shabab says in chat she's good anti-knight tech.
Ooh, yeah,
Knights
actually, that's a good
knights
point.
cry against this. Like they
Yeah,
have to use the four tap to kill her.
if they can get the 4 tap off.
Well, exactly, because a lot of them are already just 5Ks.
Yeah, because I was gonna say Instamercs Charlotte, Instamercs Laswell,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Instamercs Layla.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So things to consider there.
Yep.
Yeah, this deck is still fun. There's still a lot of fun to be had in 13. It makes me a little sad that no one's running it at locals, but like at the same time, I'm not running it at locals, so who's really to blame?
Yeah.
That's me.
Um. Also, next time we meet up and play, I want to play against this.
Yeah, we'll
I
run
want
a
to play
best of
against your
10
build. Yeah.
or
Ooh,
best of
best of
11,
10.
whatever you want it. Yeah,
Been a hot minute since I did a first to 6.
true. So yeah, so we ready to move on to the next deck?
Yep.
Okay, well, Ty, we have another 13 deck.
So I'll be honest. When I was on my toilet break, I was looking at the decks. I hate to say it. I don't think this is it.
So
I I see the lines,
okay, so
but
I'll preface this. I will stand on this one for a moment. Kyle did not build this himself. He copied
uh,
it from a video he found.
uh,
He made some changes though. But basically he found a video by I'm blanking on the name right now. It had tattoos in the name. But basically this is a mid-range 13 deck that
uh,
is it exists. He
yeah,
played it against what did he play it against? I forget what this random guy played it against. But basically it's a slow 13 deck that if your opponent doesn't shut you down, Like it's a no contest setup. Um,
Huh.
so, but that's if the opponent doesn't interact much. Now, if the opponent
Yeah.
does interact, you're probably crapping your pants.
Yeah.
But like let's for the viewers, let's look at what these cards do, right?
Yeah. Wait, really quick. Can I say something mean first before we get into this?
All right, go for it.
If I asked Meta AI to make a Final Fantasy 13 deck, I think this is what it would look like.
Brutal. That's
Only
brutal.
because it's like
Oh yeah,
I'm
AI came out since the last time we did a Fix It Friday. AI
but,
AI went public.
but that's the thing is I'm
All
looking
right.
at this, I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
let's just type in.
Let's look at what these cards do. Okay, so first things first, there is a name conflict here. You have lightning in the front row and back row. Um, this null is critical to the strategy of the deck. We'll get into that in a minute. You have Fang, Vanille, Zidane, typical characters here. Vanille. I don't think this hope belongs here. Just outright not
2-drop.
necessary. The 2-drop.
Agreed.
Just scrap that. I don't even need to think about that one. This hope is also critical to the strategy. Wool is useful for the strategy, but not critical to it. Sarah's a good card. Golbez searches for a 2-drop, which may or may not be critical. Shinryu board wipes and Boonavels capitalizes on the weird ass myriad rainbow of colors in your back row.
Mhm.
So then let's take a look at the back row that I just mentioned. Yagrash has to be played off of Wool or Tyro. Lightning
Yeah.
gives haste to a forward, which is important if you're running Hope, if Hope is on the field. Dodge, because you're,
Search off saws.
I mean, no. Saw's Search is a fire summon, I guess.
Check again, my friend. There's a saws in the forward lineup.
No, refresh, Ty. There isn't.
What? One sec, cancel. Wait, one sec. Yeah, there is. Am I missing something?
I'm looking at
What the fuck?
yeah, I'm looking at Kyle said to refresh, but
Oh, okay.
either
That's
way,
yeah, because I had mine open from
yeah.
when I clicked it earlier. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
I
was a
still
sense
don't
there. I promise.
yeah, I mean it counts as a 13 backup, which is nice. 13 character you can search off of Hope. Cool. That's fine. Um so yeah. Yeah, Dan is in chat saying he played against this last night with his mono earth deck and got milled out because he didn't kill Hope fast. And that's what this deck excels with, right? Is like, you know, if you let your opponent set up with this deck, you actually get kind of crapped on.
Mm.
But anyway, continuing, Nora searches Hope. Duh. That's an important card to have there. Amadar for searching Lightning, which gets because he can get you a backup, which is cool. Saz, and then Tyro. Limit breaks, just a rainbow here. Um, and then your summons, you have Kusith, Ami, and Odin. I don't know if I would go with this Odin, considering how few lightning cards you have. You're basically praying for an EX burst off this one, and you might as well just play the 7-drop Odin instead because you're never going to get the discount for this guy. So you
Yeah,
might as well pay 2 less.
you're running 11 lightnings, which isn't great for Odin. So that you
Yeah,
need to have half of your deck in the breaks. Or you need to have a fifth of your deck in the break zone
exactly.
to be able to like do that effect.
So this card in this deck is raw ass. So we're gonna ignore that for now. But let me copy this over and start making some edits here. Um, I said copy the deck and start making some edits. Thank you,
Materia
Materia
Hunter
Hunter.
acts weird with it.
Yeah. So I'm cutting that forward lightning, and I'm cutting this hope. The 2-drop
Yeah.
hope. That is immediately what I want to do. And then what I'm gonna do here is cut this Odin, bump up Kusith. We are going to um what do I want to do here? I mean, we want to put Vanille at 3 for sure. And I think Sarah should be at 3. And like this is for what this deck is, having watched it played on camera in one match, having heard about it from Kyle, and having heard him talk about how he played it compared to the guy who played it on camera who made it,
Mhm.
um, I I think this is about where the deck needs to be fully optimized. I don't remember seeing the original version, like the really, really original version.
Yeah.
Um, but this null, the way things are intended to work, it seems like, is you hope, pitch one, find the null, give Hope haste, and then use Hope's ability to RFG him.
Mhm.
Rinse and repeat every turn, because Hope dodges board wipes, dodges stuff on the opponent's turn, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it just it snowballs. That's the idea. Is snowball.deck.
Mhm.
Um, Boonevels again can capitalize on stuff. It's a cheeky one of. Um, the problem with this deck is the lack of removal.
Yeah.
Because everything, like most things, lack removal. Your biggest player here for removal is Shinryu. Um, if your opponent, disrupts that at all, you're in big trouble. Wall existing is kind of scary, but again, if your opponent removes that at all, you're not doing very well. Vanille is there for the special, which is great, but she can't search herself, and you have no backups that can search her except for Tyro. So you're kind of relying on playing Tyro or bursting Tyro, which feels a little awkward.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so um,
Mm.
yeah, it's interesting. The deck has some legs, and this isn't. This is like, how do I put it? This is kind of an extra steps version of the 13 I played when I built mine to be more mid range.
Mhm.
Um, but with a spin on it. So I want to try this myself. I do want to try this 13 deck myself for like 5, 10, 15 games and see how it goes against a bunch of different meta decks.
Yeah.
But I think this deck is as good as it's going to get now, and it basically requires the right kind of opponent to survive.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah.
like worth evaluating. Like
Yeah.
it's not
Though I
trash. It's just very, very confusing. When you could just play aggro 13, in my opinion. Granted,
yeah.
I'm
I
biased as hell. I love the aggro 13 stuff, and I love aggro in general. So chat, if you guys want to chime in and put your opinions out there, then yeah. Kyle says the forward lightning was there to get pitched off of searching off of Amadar for wind. Um, I hear that, but there's actually an okay amount of wind in the deck. Um,
yeah.
I think already because there's 13 lightning cards, 13 wind cards. Put that lightning back in, there's 14 and 14. Not really that big a deal to have the one card difference.
Mhm. I feel
Um,
like I'm looking at an anonymous Bosch painting.
that's a fun way of putting it.
Like it's I don't know. Like I'm just looking at this deck and I made some small changes on mine.
Hmm.
Like I agree with you, bump Kusith up, cut out 9-drop Odin. I put in 5-drop Odin instead. Um but like I don't know, there's just so much to this deck. And also how often I don't know. This feels like a pipe dream to play the Warrior of Light too. Like it's
No, the back. I mean, so the video of this guy playing the deck that I saw, that Kyle showed me, The guy
Mhm.
established his backups pretty quick because Hope can play character from 13, not just a
That's true.
forward. So
Yeah.
you go nuts with the backups if you play it right.
Mhm.
Um, but you gotta pick how you're gonna play the deck from turn one. And if you don't know what you're doing or what you're up against, you're at a severe disadvantage.
Yeah.
Whereas the
Um,
13 aggro, you just kind of hit the ground, go, and then adapt after the fact, which is fine.
yeah. Also, I swapped out one Tyro for one Toto just to have another board wipe. Like I know Shinryu's there, and then obviously you have Limit Break Toto,
Yeah.
but like I feel like if you don't hit the ground running on this deck, if you have like a mid draw, like
Hmm.
that Toto will kind of help you reset and then hopefully build back up. Like I
Is
don't know. I
which
feel
which version is yours, Ty? You didn't label it.
yeah. Here, one sec. Let me uh, here one sec. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna give it a cheeky name. I'm gonna be honest. One sec.
Well, in the meantime, I will show everybody, all the
There,
viewers. I'll
save.
show okay. I'll show the viewers our Shantotto test deck. 13. This is our test deck for our shared Materia Hunter account, by the way.
Mm.
I think it's a fantastic deck. I love it. It's
Thank
missing
you.
4 cards, but that's easy. That's whatever, man. You can just slap in 2 more gargoyles, and you can slap in an Ishtola and a Kamari, and you're
Mm.
you're good. You're off to the races, man. Fine. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So jokes aside,
Well, who knows?
this
I
is
might have a
like,
new card to add to it soon. Hee hee.
oh, maybe we will. So,
Hee hee.
um, all right, cool. So your version, walk me through it. What do we got?
Um, I don't know. uh, yeah. So I cut the 9-drop Odin for 5-drop Odin. Like I feel like I just edited. I feel like I chipped away at a like. How do I say what I'm trying to say? I feel like I put like an extra splash of paint on it, and I was like, all right, there you go.
Mm.
Because I feel like there's something about like the guts of this deck that I don't get. So what I stuck with was I took out a Tyro for Shantotto for an extra number one for an extra multi-element backup,
Hmm.
but also for a board wipe. Having relying on Shinryu as your one board wipe isn't a huge feel good for me. So I always try to avoid it if I can. Um, so the Shintotto's there for that. Um, the backup lineup I didn't want to mess with too much. I think I put in an extra dodge because I'm looking at this and it's like Saz being fire. Like I feel like this deck runs a lot of fire, but you don't have a lot of representation of it in the
Hmm.
backup lineup. Um, switched out the Odin, which I think I've already said like 3 times. And then I did not touch the limit breaks. I can't think of what to do with the limit breaks. I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe bump Sid Highwind up to 2 because it seems like a pretty good one if you want to hit backups. You are running 16 backups, so it's not terribly hard. You are running 20 EX bursts, which is nice.
Hmm.
Like I didn't change much about this deck, and I feel like it's because I'm fundamentally misunderstanding the core of it.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, watching the video helps because it gives you an
Mhm.
idea of the function of the deck at its core.
Mhm.
Kyle says in chat that the original version had 5 CPU fee, and I agree that does feel out of place. It feels like you're trying to stretch the deck in so many different directions. You don't know which
Yeah.
way it's actually going to snap. Um, I like again, I see the value in this deck. I see where it could excel. Um, and like Kyle told me some bit about it. Dan just mentioned it in chat, and I saw the
Mhm.
video. It's a good idea in theory. And again, it depends on your opponent, depends on the deck you're playing against. But again, I feel like if you don't know which direction you're going when you first start establishing your board, you are at a significant disadvantage because you could play very wrong and then just die.
Yeah.
Your opponent could like counter you and disrupt, and then you have a really hard time rebuilding.
Mm,
They nuke that hope when you play it. They Ami that hope. You're crying. Like you're in a really bad place.
yeah.
Um, so like the Golbez helps a lot. It's a very useful card because it searches any 2-drop card. Cool.
Mm,
Shinryu searches any card, helps you reestablish from your opponent board wiping and maybe establishing over you. Cool. Boonevels is cheeky. I don't think it's going to. I don't think that's going to be the card that clinches you the game, but it is certainly a fun card to get in there. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it's Earth CP.
That's actually what
Um,
I wanted to talk about briefly. I don't think the Boonwills needs to be there. I think in that case you'd rather run another Zidane, maybe. Like
No, the
you're at
Boonevels, if you establish even 3 backups of 4-drop that does what he does, is pretty cool. The only downside is that it's really only that useful if you're
late game.
truly running this mid game, or mid
Yeah.
range, because you need that damage 3, damage 6.
Mm,
Um, so
actually,
Boonevels is situational, belongs, but it's situational. Um, then like the opponent sees a 13 deck, doesn't matter what kind of 13, they're gonna try to board wipe.
oh,
Dan does
mm,
mention like surprise is a huge part of this deck, but I think that there's another. Yeah, there's another layer, and Dan actually just mentioned it that you can give Boonevels haste from lightning and back row, which is super cool. That's cheeky. I like that. Um,
um, sorry, I just made an edit. I took out Boonevels for a Bosch.
mhm,
Bosch just gives a little bit more consistency. Lets
mhm.
you search out Vanille, lets you search out Dodge, Amadar, Tyro, and Shantotto. Um, just something. It's like Boonevels. I see the value in it, but I don't know. I feel like I'm overly critical of this deck,
Yeah,
but at
I
the
think
same
I
time,
think
I'm
you're
just sitting here
being.
like, no, I think that's kind of a dumb idea.
Yeah, I have some. I will say I have some misgivings about the deck,
Yeah.
but again, having I've read the lines. I've played a version of this that is way less what's the word here? Way less flexible. Um and it's it's an idea. It's certainly an idea. It's a variation of 13 that I think hasn't really been explored, and I'm glad to see it be explored. Um and yeah, it's interesting.
Mm,
And the fact that Boonevels is a 13 character is really cheeky because, Fang effect.
yeah.
Um, which, by the way, don't use Fang effect on Boonevels if it's already at 2, because then he has to cost 1, um,
Mm. Oh
which
yeah.
is really unfortunate. So be careful how you use that. Um, but yeah, I mean, also first of all, the switch to the Bosch isn't coming through in the refresh, so I'm just gonna go back to Dex and then
Safe.
this. There we go. Now it's showing up. Yeah. So options, right? Like options.
Mm,
The Booneville slot can be flexible, but I see why he's there because he's a category 13, and that by itself is huge with all the other 13 stuff you're doing. I actually do want to shake the hand of the person who originally made this concept because it's again it's a fresh take on 13 that I think is really funky, and I don't think this is going to be like a Nats level deck, or let alone a
yeah.
Worlds level deck. But like,
Yeah.
this is a fun. This looks like fun. I will try this.
Mm, yeah. It's interesting at the very least. Like I feel like this is so something that back when we played Yu-Gi-Oh, I would watch a bunch of Yu-Gi tubers, and they would always be like, "Here's our deck profile for Fluffle like Nightmare." and it's like a really interesting deck, and it's really fun. But it's like, yeah, I can't imagine bringing this to anywhere but locals. And this feels like one of those decks that it feels like a really fun deck to like pull up to locals with and be like, check this shit out. But I also feel like this is the deck where you face down, you face down Ice Priming, or you face down Refia, and you're like, oh, I just lose.
Well, yeah, so at first glance, I thought that. And then I looked
Yeah,
at it some more and I decided, you know what? No, I do want to try this against ice priming because
yeah,
you can there's a lot of stuff you can do with this deck as long as it's your turn.
yeah,
Um, but that's the thing is that I've only ever seen things without interaction. So I want to see this with interaction. I want to see what happens when you make certain choices. Um, I certainly want to explore how the wall really does fit in and how realistic it is to get that wall out on field.
yeah,
Because like Sarah to put wall, to put everything at 5K wall swing ping, like you kill immediately. That's kind of cool. That's kind of funny. Or like Sarah Vanille finish off whatever's left with wall. Um, so yeah. Oh, Kyle said Kusith was also Opus 22 Alexander. Yeah, I think that can stay as Kusith.
yeah.
I think that's a much
That's
better
fine.
choice here because that removal is I not as I don't think it's where the deck wants to be, but hey, look, this was a first draft deck that Kyle edited, then we edited. So
Mm,
this is a game of telephone here.
yeah.
Um and sometimes that's how some really good decks get built. But yeah, I can't really say much about it until I've tried it out. And
Mm,
I think my version of the deck is where I would want to try it out. So to compare here, um, where is this one? This is where I would try the deck, and Ty has his version. Um, so yeah, I think I think we have said all we need to say about this one.
yep.
Um,
Ready to move on to the final deck?
I do think we are. So let me kill those and pull up the last one here. So this one is by our old boy Nick D. Um, and so how do we feel about this one, Ty?
So, I really wish we had Amethyst in the chat right now.
Dude, honestly, she's the knight's expert.
You mean ninjas?
Ninja, sorry, I misspoke. I was falling asleep at work today. It was I
No, you're good.
yeah, this has been a bad week for my sleep. Actually, the last 2-3 weeks. Anyway,
Yeah, we
um,
could probably keep this one a little short, only because I think this deck's already really solid. I
yeah.
could think of like a couple small changes I could make. Uh, but yeah, let's start looking through this. Like I think Tsukinoa, this is a card that I think people underestimate. This card's cracked, especially with Edge.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Uh, let's see, maybe remove Onion Knight. One sec, I just looked up every single ninja in the game for ideas. But that's definitely the edge that you want. That is definitely the edge that you want.
So I'll cut in while you're looking around.
Yeah.
There's a player who was at one of the old shops we used to go to, Dungeon Cat, rest in peace. Um, this player who actually is in our Discord, Sam, one of multiple Sams we know. He ran a ninjas deck that was a spin on a concept that um, that Amethyst would run. I don't know if he copied a list from anywhere and tweaked it, or if he just came up with it himself. It's been a minute since I've talked to Sam about this, but Sam also ran this Maki the Phantasm. He ran it at 3 because that card can make things really difficult for your opponent.
Mhm.
And the fact that you can color correct to play him is awesome. Um, and so I think Adele is a weak card that can come out. Um, So that I think that's fine. Atomos I don't think needs to be here. Because this isn't really so much a
Mm.
storm deck, so much as it is like it's cool, it's useful.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
but I want to add in um a Philo as like a just in case you can't find any water CP or color correction to play the Maquis. Because the edge lets you play the Maquis with any color. That's cool. That's nice. If you don't have the edge, or if your opponent finds a way to kill the edge really fast, then you're a little bit worried. And I think that having a backup plan is kind of cool.
Mm.
Um, so it's like a one or two of maybe. Um, the Luso backup is probably fine actually, because you can play like half the deck because a lot of two drops in here. Look at this. Look at this graph, right? You have 19 two drops in the deck, and you have
Jesus.
5 one drops. So you have 24 cards. That's half your deck minus one that you can play
Mm.
with Luso. Luso is fine. Luso belongs in this deck, totally fine. Um, no, I unironically think needs to be at two. Um, because hitting that off of a burst when your opponent's attacking is great.
Mm.
If the opponent board wiped first, then well, it's kind of moot. But positive, think positive.
Mm.
Journey is fine because that searches you Mina, and
Yeah,
I think
mine is really good.
just Mina, and that's okay. That's still a good search.
Though at the
Um,
same time, Journey isn't. Oh wait, no, mine is the backup.
no, Mina's the
Because there's
forward.
no, there's a Mina that is a ninja backup that searches a
Oh,
ninja
that's
forward.
right. That is true. It does, yeah. But either way, when Mina enters, you can search for a job ninja or a name ninja added to your hand. That's forward or backup. And then
Mm.
dull two active ninja. And then you can give a character unchoosable by summons or abilities, which is really cool.
Mm.
Um, I think that's awesome. That's really cool. Um,
Oh, I just realized Edge free plays Tsukinoa.
mhm,
Damn. Edge. Every time I read Edge, I swear to God, it gets another line of text.
mhm. Yeah, it's a
Jesus.
super cool card. And it's super cheap too.
Yeah.
Um, And then the Onion Knight is just a cheeky, fun one. Um, that's just a fun card to play, but I actually think this should be at two.
Mhm.
Um, so I would arguably, um, honestly, I think I would cut the Atomos. I think I'd cut the
You're talking about-
Atomos, put the Onion Knight
I
at
put
two.
I put it at one only because I think you're gonna get two casts off in this deck pretty easy, and it's not bad to just have it. But at the same time, like you don't super care. It is
Mm-hmm.
That's the interesting thing about ninjas is it's just so many things of just like I think this is good, but I don't know. Like
Yeah,
I
that's the
think
thing.
this
I
is
don't know
solid,
enough
but I
about
don't
ninjas.
know.
The
I'm,
Yuffie being
I
there is fine because then, of course, you can Uh, you can special with this Yuffie or put this one down, deal damage and draw a card.
mm,
Um, Yuffie gains cannot be blocked, which is cool if you want to use that version of Yuffie.
yeah,
Um, like Fina is
and you're
obviously a
running
good hand trap. You just keep that one.
yeah.
Um, like your whole backup line is fine for that. You have nothing to worry about there.
I'm
Um,
desperately trying to remember. I remember Amethyst played a ninja against me that I was like, what the fuck does this do?
is it one of
And I
the fire
remember it being,
ones?
I don't think so. I could have swore that it free plays Tsukinoa, and it wasn't Edge. But let's see. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Also, I want to look at um, standard unit support in wind.
Hmm.
Actually, is there a Luso in? Yeah, there's a Luso in the LB.
Yeah, so backup Mina for those who are curious. She just searches a ninja forward, and
Mhm.
that's pretty much it. It's super nice. Um, Easy Yaoi, if you want to run her, she basically chooses an opponent's forward, and
Mhm.
then if you have more job ninjas than that card costs, then you bounce it. Super nice. It's kind of cheeky. That's one that Sam ran as well. You have a variety of edge cards. Um, this one kind of not so great anymore these days. Genai is a fun, cheeky card that I used to really love. I think
Mhm.
Lightning needs more cards like this as a whole element in general, but that is a whole different discussion. Maybe a video, perhaps. Um, this edge is fine. It's kind of a protection card, but there's a lot of removal in the game that doesn't have damage, so it can fall flat. Things to keep in mind there. Um, this edge is not so useful because you can't cast it from grave with the crystal. You have no crystals to work with.
Mhm.
Um, and then where is old one? Yeah, I'm blanking on this stuff, but yeah, Genai is such an interesting character. I want this card to I want more stuff like this card.
Mhm.
I want this Naruto character looking ass SOB to get more good stuff.
Yeah, so cool.
Um
Okay, I remembered what the card was. It was actually the Yugiri he's already
mm,
playing. Because
okay, yeah.
I remember it either free played something or killed something without me thinking about it, and I
Mhm.
remembered it was Yugiri discarding two ninjas because I was like,
Mhm.
what the fuck?
Yeah. But this is where I think Ninjas is probably at its best.
Mhm.
Um I think you could probably bump Hooded Man down and then play like an easy owie for the bounce.
Mhm.
Um, but like not the biggest thing in the world there. That's like a tech choice. You could do that with Maquis and two, which is also fine. Um, but like Ninjas is pretty straightforward. Um, this is this is probably where the deck needs to be. I put the edge in Limit Break as well. I bumped Zidane down to two. Um, because this edge like turning well, he only turns lightning and ninja, but you know the whole deck is ninja, so
Yeah.
he kind of turns the whole deck into a into just a series of machine guns. It's trench warfare now.
Oh yeah.
Um, like you know, life patch notes, ban the trench shotgun. Like, wait, here's the trench shotgun. Here's why it needs to be banned, right? So I think that edge is totally worth having. Um, and everything else in here is fine. What's the lightning wind LB?
Did we get one?
I swear we had one where we had a lightning and wind LB. Nope, I'm just dumb. Yep, nope. Yeah, okay, we don't have one of those yet.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I like the fat chocobo in this deck. I like the ace at one in this deck. I think these are both fine at their ratios. Um, and the fat chocobo gets cheaper, which is great. So that's nice. The Asura recurs so much of the deck. Um, you know, like I said earlier about stuff that you can work with two drops, like you have a lot
Mhm.
of options there. Um, Dryad, you know, it's wind. You're playing wind, so
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
think this is where you're best off. If Amethyst were
Mhm.
here, I would love to get her input, but sadly we didn't. I didn't preview these decks until today, so didn't have time
Mhm.
to ping her and be like, "Hey, do you want to be on an episode? I know you're a little shy, but hey,
Mhm.
come on to our live stream live with people watching." Like that's not
Give
gonna
me
spike your anxiety at all.
give me a 3-page dissertation about your ninjas.
Please, yeah. No, honestly though, she knows her. If there's anything she knows for sure, it's that. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know her well enough to speak to anything else, but if I know something about her expertise, it's ninjas.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. I just saved my version.
I saved mine, and I have a feeling that they're going to be very similar.
We're gonna be pretty. I kept in Otomos. I also cut Fat Chocobo. Um, but yeah, no, it's gonna be pretty. It's gonna be pretty similar.
Yeah. So, all right. So let me open your version, Ty. And all right, let's compare these real quick. So
Oh god,
this, all right.
cracking so many bones.
Um,
There we go.
we have very little difference here in our
Yeah,
decks. You put in the free cast Alexander,
yeah. I just think
which
it's a really good card.
I think it's a perfectly fine addition.
Mm,
Instead of the Fat Chocobo, I think that's totally fine. You have one less forward than I do because I added the Easy Owie, and
mm,
that's fine. You kept Maki at 1, I noticed.
yeah, yeah.
Bunny Knight at 1.
I think it's not terribly hard to play him, but at the same time, like because the deck is so wind focused,
Mm-hmm.
there's still that like edge making it easier is nice, but it's not. I don't think it's perfect. I guess like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is definitely another deck that I would actually really like to like test play.
Yeah. You kept Ace in the limit break at 2, which is, I
Yeah.
think, fine. I think I actually bumped, yeah, I bumped mine back up to 2. You kept Atomos in at 1. You slimmed
Mm.
down the backup lineup. You took out some ninjas there. You did not add the Philo.
No, I didn't.
Um, but other than that, we kept these decks very similar.
Yeah. It's it's a relatively straightforward deck. I think there is a world in which you have like a lightning mix in the backups, but
Hmm.
I don't think it's necessary.
Like this deck is 99% heroes and rares.
Yeah.
Actually, it's mostly commons and rares with a
Mm.
very rare couple of heroes and legends.
Yeah.
When the Yuffie reprint comes out, I'm probably gonna build this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I want to definitely give this a shot. Ninjas is another, I think another episode we eventually need to do is like classes that need more support.
Oh yeah, for
And
sure.
I definitely think ninjas is one of them. I think ninjas is like, it's another one of those decks that's like almost there. It's
Hmm.
right there, but it's not fully there yet.
I mean, that's not gonna stop Amethyst, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I hope it doesn't stop Nick, because if Nick wants to play this deck, I'd be interested to play against this at at locals.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
Hell, I'll play that 13 deck against this.
Yeah. It's an interesting list.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think at this point we can call it a wrap on that. And yeah, dancers need a key character who isn't named Lilith. That's, I guess it's fair, but at the same time, that Lilith you already got is pretty dang good.
True.
Consider the following. She has multiple good abilities.
Mm.
Yeah, so if we are good here, then I think we're good to call the stream a wrap. We've been going for,
Yeah. Like
let's see,
3
two and a
hours.
half hours,
Right.
2 hours and 35 minutes, which is a pretty healthy stream length.
Mm.
So, yeah. Any final thoughts?
Uh, no, no. I'm excited to be back in the driver's seat on this. Honestly,
Yeah,
it's
honestly,
just
I
fun
am
looking at
too.
these builds. Though I have to admit the 13 deck was something. I still haven't digested it. I'm still just like thinking about it, like what the fuck. I don't know. We'll figure it
Yeah,
out.
think on it, and that's okay. It can wait. We can play it next time we hang, and
Mm.
yeah. So
All right.
yeah, cool. Thanks everybody for watching. Glad you guys could be here. The VOD
Thank
for this
you.
should be up immediately.
Yep.
This is being DVR'd by YouTube, and I have a local recording, so we should be good there. And we will hopefully. I should be editing our newest content within the next like 4 or 5 days or so.
Yep.
I actually might be able to find time tomorrow night because my tomorrow I had a few things going on tomorrow, but half of it fell through. So
Mhm.
I should be home tomorrow at a reasonable hour, and that video shouldn't take too long to edit. We only recorded for like what, half an hour, I think.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I think it
So
was like I think we ended on like half an hour clean, and that's not including or that's including the like 3 minutes of us just like checking stuff.
oh, why am I even asking you? I have the file open right here. Details, 34 minutes of length, and a lot of that was
Yeah,
dead air at the beginning. So
yeah, there we go.
yeah, there we go. All right, cool. Well, look forward to that. And we hope to be doing one of these every month. So if you missed this one and you're watching this in the future on the DVR or the VOD, then feel free to come in and submit for the next time around, and we'll keep you in mind. The
Yep.
earlier we get your submissions, the earlier we can consider changes to suggest.
Hell yeah.
So thanks for watching, guys, and we will catch you later.
Goodbye. Goodbye. I love you all. Goodbye.